All right. Last unit before STAR, we will have our boot camp and we will be getting these kids ready for STAR. Cannot believe that we're already going to be there. I mean, we're really, when I'm recording this, it is almost Thanksgiving. I can't believe that we're almost done with the first semester. So I know the second semester goes pretty fast and it'll be kind of crazy. It'll be like a whirlwind, and I'm sure you're already in one. But let's get into it. 1990s to modern. We will start with our global issues, okay? Our foreign issues, and we're going to start with 11A. Now, I'm not giving you essential TEKS at this point. I'm giving you essential topics and the TEKS that fall into those. So 11A, describe U.S. involvement in world affairs, including the Persian Gulf War, the events surrounding September 11th, 2001, and the global war on terror. You will also have 17E, describe the dynamic relationship between U.S. international trade policies and the U.S. free enterprise system, such as the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade and the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. Now, I know that most people don't know what GATT is, and some kind of had an idea of what NAFTA was, but they don't really know about that either. I also understand that most people don't know what the Persian Gulf War is, okay? So when you're going in and you're teaching Persian Gulf War, so Iraq invades Kuwait and the United States gets involved. President who is over it is Bush Sr., okay? So George H.W. Bush is the president over it. And when I said, what was the other one? Oh, GATT is going to be a general agreement on tariffs and trade. This is going to be under President Clinton. And this is going to be the idea that tariffs and trade are more equal across the board when you're considering other countries who are not as wealthy as, let's say, certain European countries or the United States or maybe even Canada. The North Atlantic, so it's going to make it more even across the board. More people can participate in trade, and it's going to fuel that globalism and that diffusion of culture through that trade. North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement is going to be between the North American countries, so Canada, the United States, and Mexico, which we are no longer a part of, but for this sake, this is when this takes place. Okay. To be or not to be. That was corny, I know, but whatever. Explain the significance of the following years as turning points. 2001, terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. I'm sure most of you know about that. And 2008, election of the first black president, Barack Obama. So right now we focus on 2001 as far as like how you would set this up with regard to global, these things happen in this progression. So you would come back over here and remember it said the events surrounding September 11th, 2001 and the global war on terror. That from 11A ties into that other part on 2B. So you would teach those together. 11D is identify the impact of international events, multinational corporations, government policies, and individuals on the 21st century. Okay, so all of the government policies going on, the corporations, this is all of that globalism that is taking place. It's not just the United States because it says 21st century economy. It doesn't say the United States. It is the United States and how it's affecting the United States here, but it is also all the other countries that are involved. We also have 13B. Analyze the causes and effects of changing demographic patterns resulting from immigration to the United States. This is definitely us drawing back. Remember when I mentioned people coming from the Soviet Union during that McCarthyism timeframe after 2001? Anyone coming from the Middle East is going to experience a backlash, and that is going to be that immigration section. How is that going to play out? We also have 14A, which is identify the effects of population growth and distribution on the physical environment. That is going to draw into the movement of where people are at within the United States, but also where people go after the levee failure of New Orleans. We don't get into that part until we get into domestic. So with domestic, we have 11C. Analyze the impact of third parties on the 1992 and 2000 presidential elections. Third parties make elections difficult. They take votes away from a major party and give it to the third party so that those two parties that are alike, that split, now the other party wins, okay? So you can even talk about current third parties. Why was there a third party there? Why do third parties form? What do major parties do in order to gain back those votes, right? By taking in those issues that third party is seeking to handle, right? So we talk about it. We talk about an interesting, way for them to remember is that both of these third party elections are dealing with the Bush presidents, Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. So that's an easy way to remember what's going on. That was 11C. We have 19. Oh, that also ties in 22C, which is explain how participation in the Democratic Party process reflects our national identity, patriotism, and civic responsibility. It also ties into 18D, which is the USA Patriot Act and the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Our duty, what we do for the United States, is really the USA Patriot Act. The Reinvestment Act of 2009 doesn't come into play until we talk about the election of Barack Obama. We also have, let's see, that was, oh, no, we have 19B. Evaluate the impact of relationships among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, including the presidential election of 2000. That's going to be that recount and everything that's taking place there. We have, that could be like maybe half of a day or maybe one station, 11C and 19B. And then another station, 18C, which is the Bill Clinton's impeachment. You will move on to 2B, which we kind of already talked about, 2008 election of the first black president. You will go to 12A, or well, 12A will come before that. Analyze the impact of physical and human geographic factors, which is the levee failure in New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina. 14B, I'm going back and forth here, guys, from ready to supporting standards. 14B, identify the roles of governmental entities and private citizens in managing the environment. Back to the levee. Why weren't the funds spent on refurbishing the levee? 13A, analyze the causes and effects of changing demographic patterns resulting from migration within the United States. Those are going to be everybody leaving New Orleans to go find somewhere to live. 18B, where is it? Explain constitutional issues raised by federal government policy changes during times of September 11th. And then 18D, Patriot Act, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. That's okay. So that's where you draw in. You can see that these have to be pieced together properly because Obama would go with the Recovery and Reinvestment Act as well as his health care bill. The USA Patriot Act would obviously go with 2001 terrorist attacks and then the events of September 11th and the global war on terror. So you will be piecing these together, but it would still be global, domestic, And so we'll move on to people, which is 23A. Evaluate the contributions of significant political and social leaders in the United States. And this time you're going to be bringing in Hillary Clinton. You will also, you'll be talking about her not just as if she was just she tried to run for president. She is the wife of Bill Clinton, so she's the first lady. She is the Secretary of State, and then she does run for the presidency. You will also talk about 25D, Sonia Sotomayor, and she is going to be the first female Hispanic Supreme Court Justice. And then you have 25C, which is explain how the contributions of various people of various racial, ethnic, gender, and religious groups. So that's, again, just one of those extras that you're adding to it. Your last section is tech, and that's going to encompass 26A, which is explain the effects of scientific discoveries and technological innovations, such as telephone and satellite communications, petroleum-based products, computers on the economic development of the United States. You will have 27A, which is analyze the scientific discoveries, tech innovations, space exploration, and the application of these by the free enterprise system, improve the standard of living in the United States, including changes in transportation and communication. And lastly, 27B, describe the free enterprise system and how it drives technological innovation and its application in the marketplace, such as cell phones, inexpensive personal computers, and global positioning products. So remember, GPS is going to come out because of Bill Clinton's administration, kind of releasing it to the public, because before it was just for the military. You're going to focus on Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates. That is the 1990s. It's a lot. It is your most tested unit. So please do not rush through this unit. You have got to take your time on it because it is the most tested. And granted, it is the most fresh in their mind. Teachers like to rush through 1990s and then they don't hit it properly, and then kids are struggling with it. And because when we do boot camp, we don't want to boot camp 1990s because it is the most recent unit. We want to boot camp all these other units. So if teachers rush through 1990s, then they're doing themselves a disservice because this is the unit that's most tested. The students are most likely to get most of their points here. So we really want to do this one good so then we could just boot camp the other ones that maybe we need to focus on a little bit more. So that's all of them. That's all of them. We're done. Okay, I'm done. Y'all still have to teach it, but it's great. Got this beast done.